Now where I'm looking at things day by day and I'm actually being more diligent about paying attention to my turnaround time, what that may be caused by.
And then you have another approach where the salesman will come over to you. Hey, I see that you're on the car lot today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Charles. It's nice to meet you. See, you're looking around. If you have any questions, I'll be right over there.
As a lot of us flippers know, there's so many scams on Facebook Marketplace right now. And then most people that I deal with come from dealing with someone who's a scam, whether they actually sent the money or someone tried to get money from them.
A couch is an investment. You're going to sit on that thing, sleep on it. It's going to be essentially a centerpiece of your home for probably a long time to come.
And it happened before. That slow time between the 12th and 17th that I didn't sell anything, I picked up a bunch of couches. I got backed up on work, and then I paid for some labor and some help to get them cleaned up and done. And then once I got them done, as they started selling.
On today's episode of the Couch Pod, I'm joined by Keon Roane, a former car salesman turned full-time couch flipper running a small operation called Adapt-A-Seat. And today he's with us to share where he's at in his journey and potentially to discuss some strategies to improve. Keon, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. So if you could give our audience a little bit of context, you recently quit your job, you dug into couch flipping full time. Tell us about where you think you're at in the business today.
Right now, I'm actually in kind of state that feels like limbo because I've been flipping since March of 23 and I just kept it at about 8 or so a month and I just went full time. So with me only doing it 2 days a week, there was no way of developing a daily cadence with actionable steps that would grow the business, such as a pickup schedule or cleaning and things like that. So right now, this last 30 days, it's just been kind of like a learning experience as far as me being full time. So I don't think I've kind of settled in yet.
So in the past year, you've definitely gotten some experience and familiarity with couch flipping and the culture around it, but you haven't had the time to be able to set up processes and turn it more into a business for yourself.
Exactly.
Why'd you quit your job?
I was making the same thing from flipping as I was from selling cars. So it was about time because selling cars, I was working 50 hours a week. And on this business, I was working maybe 8. So I figured having more than quadruple the time, I'd be able to make it work.
Hopefully quadruple the results, if not more.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And most importantly, you're building equity for yourself. So it's not just about the money you're making, but your ability to build a business that stands on its own 2 legs. Hopefully at some point you can even replace yourself as a labor component in your business. You can plug other people in and the business will run without you in some capacity and you can benefit from that cash flow, maybe even have an exit in the future.
That's really the goal. And with that goal in mind, I want to be intentional about the way I build this to start out with, because even though I've been doing this for over a year, it's felt like 30 days because, doing something part-time, it really doesn't feel like I'm actually giving the business a fair go or that I'm building anything because none of my cash flow was going into reinvesting and things like that. So I'm glad you actually said that because that's the goal. I know for some people, they're okay with keeping it a one-man operation and that's what they want. But my goal in particular, I want to detach myself so I can work on the business, not in it.
Absolutely. I don't think there's one right answer. You have to figure out what's the right goal for yourself. Some people, they do want to just keep it sort of like a hustle and have more free time for themselves. And, they keep their expenses really low. They sell whatever couches they can and all of that extra cash just pads their pocket. Nothing wrong with that if you want to keep it a hustle. But if you have a vision or an ambition to make it something greater, then you want to have a little bit of a longer strategic focus as opposed to just focusing on the tactics, the day-to-day of running and operating the business flipping couches. So tell the audience, what market are you in and how has the business started to change over the past 30 days that you've been doing it full-time?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Before we get into all of the best strategies out there for making a flipping business, we just wanted to let you know that we have an app that helps flippers grow their businesses. Our app will send you notifications whenever the items you're after are posted on Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, or Craigslist. This way, you can always be first to buy the good deals and leave your competition in the dust. Not to mention, our app does inventory management, cross-listing, and has AI-powered scam detection. Just search Ivy Flip in the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, or use the link in bio and try our app for 1 week completely free.
So I'm in the Piedmont Triad area, which is Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, in North Carolina. So over the last 30 days, I've been able to see like a daily cadence of what couches come in. And what's been different is with me having 4 days in between my work days before, because I had 4 days on, 1 day off, and then back to work again. So my days off weren't consecutive back to back at one point. It created kind of, I feel like, a false sense of a selling cadence. So I've heard Dylan Pavia talk about fast weeks and slow weeks. But for me, every week just felt the same because during the slow time, I would always post them, get them cleaned on the same day. And then if there were 4 days of no action, to me, I was at work, it was whatever. And I always expected that if it didn't sell in the first weekend, I always knew for a fact it would sell in the second. But now where I'm looking at things day by day and I'm actually being more diligent about paying attention to my turnaround time, what that may be caused by, as an attempt to like dial in pricing to maximize profit, but also not affect my turnaround time too much. It's changed a lot because I think I'm learning about my market more.
Understood. So now that dead time really does feel like dead time.
Yeah, especially if I've maxed out my space. And that's also another thing that I wanted to talk about at some point, as far as space versus turnaround time and things like that.
So yeah, let's talk about that. What are we looking at in terms of storage space? Are you in a storage unit, warehouse, garage? Do you have what's your transportation look like?
So I have a 10 by 30 and a 15 by 25. So that is about 675 square feet total. And with that, I have my equipment in there, and then I also have the couches laid out. So I'm able to fit 7, but comfortably 6. That's because I prefer to not have them laid up. And if I do, I'd like to have it separate from the customers. And that's just my style. It's more comfortable for me because if I have couches stacked up, it creates more labor because you have to move them. And then I pay for part-time help from time to time. And, to avoid that, I just keep it as is. So set out. Then as far as transportation goes, I have a 2000 Toyota Tundra. It's got almost 300,000 miles on it. I got it for really cheap, and that's been great to me. It's a V8, so it pulls good. I haven't used the trailer just yet, but there wouldn't be a problem with it. The gas mileage sucks. And it's an access cab, not a regular cab. So it's not the full 8-foot bed, but it's longer than the bed of something like a 4.5-foot crew cab or something. So that's been great for picking up couches. I fit a 5-piece actually furniture sectional with an ottoman in there before. So
Seems sufficient to pick up any individual sectional or couch. I think that we have the advantage today of being able to dig into the numbers because you've been diligently filling out the Ivy Flip sales tracker. So why don't you go ahead and share your screen and let's start digging in.
Yeah, so I went on the 12th. Yep, so halfway through the month.
Got it. Well, halfway through the month, you flipped 17 units. That's double what you were kind of typically doing anyway. And looks like we're off to a little bit of a slow start in July.
Yes, and I think I know what happened here, but maybe you have some better insights. Towards the end of the month here, this is where I quit. So that day I sold 2. And then I had a slow start. So 5 day stall. But as I got things cleaned and going, it started picking up pretty quickly. So the sales were getting closer. And then a lot of these sales that were close together weren't from individual listings. Some of them hadn't even been listed yet. But a lot of times what would happen is out of a bunch of people interested in one, and then I would say, hey, this one's sold, but come check out what we have. And the way I have things laid out, they can come look at all of them, sit down on all of them, and then they would choose from there. However, I didn't expect to sell however many this was within this last week. That was my first time selling that many at once. And so that was 9 within a week. And that was my first time doing that. So here at the bottom of the month, I sold out.
That's what it looks like to me. Ran out of inventory.
Yeah, so then I had to go back and you see like I was picking things up, but this one on the 26th wasn't done yet because the seller wasn't transparent about the broken legs and they took a bit to get here. So that was a repair that had to be done. I also didn't get them all listed until the 2nd. And then if you notice here, I've only had 3 sales so far because 4th of July week was a little bit slow for me.
Also makes sense. Yes. You ran out of stock in the holiday weekend. And then how many couches in inventory do you have today?
So I colored these. These are 4 that are listed and ready. And then are these just total or the ones that are ready for sale?
You have 6 couches in inventory, and then
4 ready
two
to
that you need two that you need to get cleaned up and listed. And they don't, one thing that people should look at is time to list, right? Because if you're picking up couches and they're just sitting dirty and you're unable to get them listed, that directly does impact your turnover time. So let's say your overall turnover time is 6 days, but 2 to 3 of those days are just days where it sits in inventory and it hasn't had exposure to the market either, right?
And for me, my time to list is it's normally less than 24 hours, especially since I've gone full time. There was one time that it wasn't, and that was toward the end of last month, but I was still selling the couches that I did have. And I wasn't consciously thinking that every time I sell one, I need to replace it. And eventually I had nothing left to sell. I used to look at it like I have a listing up, I'm trying to sell this couch, but I started last year, March of 2023. But then I started car sales November of 2023. And with that, I feel like I learned a great deal about working with people, staying on them, and working your leads. And then I started to apply some of those principles. So before, where I would just look at listing as, okay, I'm trying to sell this couch, and then whoever misses out, oh well. I started looking at it as, okay, these are all actual people that want to buy something. Let me sell them something.
This is a great example because a situation, right, where a customer walks on the car lot and you have one kind of sales guy who's going to go over and say, "Hey, thanks for coming to the dealership. See that you're interested in buying a car. We have this great special on Toyota Tundra. It has like XYZ features, the engine super powerful, runs smooth, and I would love to get you in this car today." It's like one approach. And then you have another approach where the salesman will come over to you. "Hey, I see that you're on the car lot today. I want to introduce myself. My name is Charles. It's nice to meet you. See you're looking around. If you have any questions, I'll be right over there." The customer browses the lot, is looking around in a couple different cars, and then eventually you go back and reapproach him. "Hey, so I see that you've been checking out a couple cars, but you haven't seemed to have picked out one that you really like. You mind me asking, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, do you have a family? What are you going to be using? Why are you in the market for a car? What are you going to be using it for? Do you need space? Do you have like children? Is this going to be a commuter car? Are you driving frequently, infrequently?" And you learn more about the needs of the customer. And as you learn more about the needs of the customer, you can help guide them into the vehicle that fits their needs. And so this is another way of looking at the consumer interest in response to your listings. So you listed a couch. It's a nice Ashley furniture sectional, has all the bells and whistles. And you can try to sell them that sectional because that's what they expressed interest in initially. That's a bright, shiny object. But in another case, what you have is a customer who has needs that you want to uncover. They might think they want that Ashley sectional, but instead, maybe they want something else. It's more in range of their budget. It's a better fit for their needs. It has like features that they're actually going to use, like reclining or an outlet, or maybe they need some storage space. And so the more that you look at each of these interactions as an opportunity to learn about that person and their needs and guide them to a product that fits their needs, I think the better chance you're going to have at having success with your sales.
I think looking at it that way has been a lot more helpful. What you described, I think, is the old me versus the me that I'm trying to move towards is, the more helpful person that talks to the customer like an actual human being, not just someone trying to buy an item. And I've actually found that unless someone tells me like, hey, I want this one specifically, can you deliver it sight unseen? If someone wants to come check it out, instead of me getting them laser focused on just the one, I say, hey, this one's great. I'd love to show it to you. We also have others as well. I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for in your space, but I'd love to help you find something that works with your space. And then being genuinely helpful to someone, I think it's been received well. A lot of people get excited because, as a lot of us flippers know, there's so many scams on Facebook Marketplace right now. And then most people that I deal with come from dealing with someone who's a scam, whether they actually sent the money or someone tried to get money from them. Just laser focused. Do you want it or not? Are you sending the money? Whatever. And then to have someone that's like, hey, at the end of the day, your dream outcome is you want something that's going to work for your lifestyle situation. Let's pick that one here. And most times they go up in couch, not down. So someone will come in on a cheaper item and then they upgrade. Because the difference between a $500 couch and a $700 couch, it's not that big a difference considering that how often do you buy couches? It's not very often. So the difference of $200 over that course of time. It's like they might as well spend the money, especially considering that a large U-shape Ashley furniture sectional may retail for a couple of grand versus them opting for something smaller because of financial reasons versus with them buying used, that gap's a lot smaller as far as like finances go. So it's worked out pretty well so far.
Absolutely. I think you've hit on two really important ideas here. The first is that there's a financial cost with buying an item, but there's also the quality of life that comes along with it. And a couch is an investment. You're going to sit on that thing, sleep on it. It's going to be essentially a centerpiece of your home for probably a long time to come if it's a quality piece of furniture. And you don't cheap out on where you sleep and where you sit, right? That you're going to spend a lot of time on those things. And when a customer walks into your showroom to look at your couches, the one thing that you know about them is like they need a couch. They might not know exactly what kind of couch, but you've caught them at a good time. You've caught them at a time where they're open to hearing about what you have to offer. And because you know that intent, it's easier to capitalize on it by having a variety of couches that may fit their needs. And this also lets you transition from being a transactional seller to a consultative seller. These two ideas, first, financial cost versus quality of life, and then transactional versus consultative, can really help you elevate your sales game as a couch flipper. But I think these are principles that you have already internalized, probably due to your stint as a car salesman. And these are traits that will serve you well as you continue your journey into couch flipping. The next thing I'd like to look at is just your expenses.
So they've kind of ramped up a bit. Gas has been a big one. I'd like to ask you, like, is this a normal amount of money that's going out? Like so far this month, $700, but last month it was pretty extensive here. It's a couple
Yeah,
grand.
scroll up to the top last month. All right. So we have from 6
Gas.
to highlight C20 and then drag it all the way down to the end of the month. All right, cool. So your total expenses last month, $2,078. Looks like you're putting some money into Facebook boosts.
I was actually running traditional ads, but my targeting was a little bit off. I was a little bit too general with my ad. And then I ran a second one. The first one, people were looking for financing for new furniture. And they thought that maybe I might be a little bit more lenient with it, but actually I sell used. So that was one thing. Also, people asking, do you have a dresser? Do you have a bed? Do you have things that I don't sell? But now I'm boosting because I'm realizing I need to stick with the platform that's working and then go out from there.
Scroll up a little bit.
So before I quit, it was a very small amount.
Okay, so you have a couple $100 in labor costs and then maybe like $500-600 in gas, and then your total storage cost is $600. Good, and then random miscellaneous supplies. So I don't see anything that stands out to me as being irregular about the expenses that you're incurring given the scale of your operation today. So this is all good. Let's go back to the monthly P&L. So the way I like to think about what we need to do in the business to succeed really depends on where we want to get to. So last month you did gross sales of $8,000, and then your net profit after paying out all of your expenses about $3,800. And then, presumably you're going to pay taxes on that. Let's say where you want to be in 3 months. What is a realistic number for you? Like let's say in September, how much net profit do you want to take home?
To me, realistic would be at least netting six. I mean, looking at this, it's a 50% increase, but the difference between 4,000 and 6,000 to me, it just seems like a really small gap to close, even though looking at that, it does kind of seem like a big hop.
I don't think
But
so. I think 6,000 is conservative.
that's what I was thinking as well. But I'm just telling someone that you want to up your net profit by 50% kind of sounds insane to me just saying out loud. But to me, it just feels really attainable.
It absolutely is. If you go from one couch to two couches a month, you've scaled your operation by 100%. Depending on your starting point, I wouldn't be thinking about this in terms of percentage increases, but in terms of what you need to do to hit the goal. And 6,000 is very obtainable. So right now, if you scroll over to the right in the spreadsheet, let's look at your average net profit per flip. And then for the year, it's been 257. And so just by these numbers, you need to flip 8 more couches compared to June in order to hit a goal of $6,000 in net profit.
So 2 more week. I mean, that sounds doable for me.
2 more a week. Or another way to look at it is 25 in a month, which means like you could sell a couch a day, a little bit less than a couch a day, maybe like what, 0.85, 0.9 couches a day, and you're going to have achieved your goal of 6,000 in net profit. And that's with no other changes to the business, right? So if you think about growing a couch flipping business, there are 2 levers that you pull on. You can either sell more couches or you can make more per couch. Where you're at in the business, you haven't optimized your volume. Like there are people that can sell 1 couch a day, 2 couches a day, 3 couches a day. And see, you as an individual, as a solopreneur with a little bit of help, have the ability to just simply do more volume. And doing more volume is just a question of having more listings. Because right now you have 4 listed on Marketplace. Imagine if you had 15 couches listed on Marketplace. If you have 15 couches listed on Marketplace, you're going to sell more couches. It's really as simple as that. An immediate term goal that you should have is figuring out at any given point in time, how do I get more couches listed on Marketplace? That's the very first lever I'd be pulling on.
With that, I think, and the reason why I wanted to put a pause on it is, and like really dive into that, is because there's a decision I've been wrestling to make as far as space. Now, I know I could maximize my space better by setting them up. However, a lot of my sales come from people looking at other couches. I already get the questions of, did you have a furniture store? What are you doing with all these couches? And I would rather not have someone ask me about me flipping a couch down, from a storage unit area when they're expecting that they've been cleaned already. And some people won't care, but I think some people will. So I've thought about getting more space, but the reason why I've been wrestling with the decision is if I get the larger space and then get more couches in, and then I'm wrong about what's preventing me from being cash flow positive enough to afford the rent after paying myself, then I kind of put myself in a jam. But I feel like that's kind of reconfirming what I thought as far as having more listed at once.
I would think about this in 2 ways. The first is I've never talked to a flipper that regretted getting more space. If they got that space because they're serious about their business and they wanted to grow, I think almost every time I've had this conversation with people, they made that investment, they got a warehouse, they upgraded to like a 2,000 square foot warehouse, 3,000 square foot warehouse. They saw a positive return in their business from that investment. So it seems like that when it comes to couch flipping, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. You could look at it just as like it's more square footage, but it actually has a different effect in the business other than being able to store more couches. When you have more inventory available, it helps hedge against the fast weeks and the slow weeks. That's a numbers thing, right? If you only have 4 couches listed, the probability of one of those couches being interesting to someone, them coming in to buy it in a given week is going to be lower than if you had 15 couches listed. So it helps hedge against the variability. Second, it improves your efficiency and how you're moving about in the space that you have available. So if you're operating in a very small space, then oftentimes you can't have designated areas for things. And so you can't have like assembly line sort of efficiency in your business where here's my staging area, here's my cleaning area, here's my storage area, and here's my showroom. And then as couches come in, it's sort of like this assembly line. But if you have a smaller space, then you're constantly shuffling things around to try to make it work, right? At one point, this corner, maybe I'm storing a couch there. At another point in time, I have to move everything out so I can clean a couch. And those are hours over the week that can be reclaimed and invested
That's
into
actually
other areas.
responsible for my labor dollars. I'm having to pay to get my time back to be able to go pick up a couch, deliver a couch, or show someone else a couch because I only have so many hours of the day. And when I'm having to move things back and forth, it takes longer. So then I have to hire someone to. Now I have a system where I have an intake side, which is a smaller one, and then a showroom side. But with that, once they're done, pictures are taken, I have to move them over. And sometimes I don't have the time, so I have to pay someone to help me get that done or get the hand.
Absolutely. So the labor that you're currently spending on maybe can be a way of offsetting what the rent of a lease might be. One way of thinking about it, although it is likely that if you move into a larger space, your labor needs will change as well. So I wouldn't necessarily count that as a factor. Third, and maybe most importantly, is that it elevates the business as a whole. So instead of like people asking, like, do you sell furniture? Like, why do you have so many couches? Like, and sort of being this conspicuous entity, because there are these all these scammers on Facebook Marketplace. Now you're a legit business. You have your branding, you have your warehouse, you have your showroom. You just feel a little bit more official, and that can help with the comfort of people that come to your space to buy something from you. And on the sales side, and you've already experienced this, oftentimes people come in, they want a couch, they don't know exactly what they want, but if you show them a couple of options, you know, it's more likely that they're going to walk out of there satisfied and having bought something from you. And so it improves your conversion rate. So overall, what I've seen is that when people make that jump up from storage unit into warehouse and showroom, that it has an overall positive effect on their business that outscales how much they're investing into the increased cost of the lease. So once again, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. When you put it all together, it has a powerful effect that goes beyond just cost per square footage.
I just put on the top, just more space is an idea altogether. One thing that motivated me the moment you said it was you've never met a flipper that's regretted getting more space. And one thing that I hadn't thought of before you said it was that it hedges against fast weeks and slow weeks. With the reason being is with more options. I mean, on any given week, someone's buying a couch on Facebook Marketplace. It's just a matter of if they're buying it from me. Because even on the slow weeks, it's not that no couches are getting sold on Facebook Marketplace. Now that you said that, I could see how that could be a hedge against fast weeks and slow weeks with me having more listings up. And then two, you said operations will get better. You're more efficient with space. I could have a designated staging area, cleaning area, designated showroom. One thing I want to ask is how much from what you've seen, and I know as much as possible would probably be the answer, but how much space would you see is as good to start out with? Because I'm noticing a lot of 3-year leases and I'm not sure what it would cost me to break out of one. And my concern is getting something that I'll outgrow within a matter of 6 months and then having to move, because if I get too big, right, it's a risk. And right now I have enough money in the business account to fund the inventory. So say I had to go from 6 to 12, I have the money to fund it. That's not the concern. My concern is if I run into a sales issue where I have to look at ads or look at boosting or look at different pictures, or down to right now, I'm not sure if you took a look at my Instagram. There's like look to it that I found works for sales and turnaround time and people asking questions, and even down to the way the pictures are. They're not that close up. Some of them are detailed, but that's kind of with an intention because it kind of promotes people to want to come out and take a look at them. And that's worked really well for me. I wonder about getting a new staging area, because if it's in a way that's displeasing to someone's eye for whatever reason and it drops my click-through rate, that can be an issue. So whatever issues that I could run into on the sales side, I worry about that being an issue if I get too much space. But with the 3-year lease, if I don't have enough space, how could I go about breaking that? And I know there's probably a simple question to that, but 3 years ago, man, I was 19. It's a little bit scary signing a 3-year lease for something.
Take the 3-year lease off the table. The actual decision of what storage unit you buy requires more detailed analysis and information than we have available right now. Like, we need to actually look at the properties, look at the lease term, look at the cost per square footage, and then make a decision based on those factors. So this is a whole other conversation in and of itself, is like, how do we evaluate these leases? But the broader question here, which I think is a really good one, is how do I gauge if this is an acceptable amount of risk to take on? Because that's really your question, is like, if I get into a lease, yes, there's this risk of outgrowing it, but that's a good problem. But there's also this risk that, like, I bite off more than I can chew, I run into unexpected expenses, and then put in a negative debt situation, which has also happened to people. They try to scale their business, they make investments, and then that ends up hurting them in the long term. So the way I would look at that is that today you're taking home about $4,000 net profit. Let's say you reserve a third of that for taxes. You should be paying taxes. When you look at your personal expenses, what do you need to survive?
I need 5,000.
All in. That's like rent, food, groceries.
Yeah, I'm head of household of a family of three, soon to be four. Six is the comfortable number. That's why that's my goal to get there. I mean, that's not even extravagant lifestyle. That's like I've been working from 9 to 7. Day we need to eat out tonight type situation, but not like we're going to get steak dinners every night.
That's supporting a basic lifestyle in America for your family. Needs are being met.
Which is a shame because if you do the math on that, right, I'm looking to net six after the tax, like after I set aside what I need to set aside, and what is that, like 72,000 a year? I feel like that would have been good money, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Things have changed. When I was growing up, I always used to think $100,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Nowadays, I know people making $100,000 and they're living paycheck to paycheck. It happens more frequently than you think. There's lifestyle creep, especially if you live in like a high cost of living city, New York City, LA, whatever. That $100,000 can go very quickly. It's easier if you're a bachelor, but raising a family on even $100,000 on income can be tough. So I understand and have a lot of empathy for that situation. And so before we were talking about goals. And you put out a goal of, I want to make $6,000 net in September, and really $6,000 net profit out of your business doesn't even cover the quality of life that you want for your family. Your goal should be higher.
Which it is. I just, with that question in mind, I wanted to give you a number that I thought was attainable. Well, to me, 8 is attainable because I've seen how that week that I sold all those couches, I still had customers on the table. And if I could mitigate the slow weeks and then keep that going, and that was without advertisements, that money in marketing was kind of like me playing with audiences and where to funnel them if I'm going to do the groups like Dylan Pabia suggests. And so that was kind of like learning money there. But now that I'm boosting, I'm actually getting customers from that. I really can see myself doing 8 pretty easily, especially if I move into the space within the next 30 days. I can see myself netting 8. And that's just because, I mean, one of those weeks, I think I was close to 5 grand, or it was that sling of days, and I'm running just short of a 50% net margin. So if I just chain 4 of those weeks back to back.
Depending on the cost of a lease, I really think you got to get to 10K net profit a month for like 3 months consistently before you consider getting into a warehouse. And this sounds controversial in a way. The reason I say that is because you have a family. The very first milestone for you in your journey needs to be making sure that money is going into the bank account, not out of it. And last month you had to live off of savings. That's your runway. And if it's just you and you can cut expenses and get that as low as possible, and extend your runway, and that's all fine. But if you have people that are depending on you, there's higher level of risk. Risk is magnitude times probability, and the magnitude is higher. Every decision that you make affects not only you, it affects your children, your wife. That means you probably have to take things slower. So go back to the monthly P&L. In order for money to be going into the bank account and for that balance to be growing, you need to be making around 6K net. You should try to do that this month. And then if you're going to make an investment into a warehouse, let's say your costs go up by $1,500 a month. I'm just spitballing here. And you want to put away, I would say, at least 3 months of runway, if not 6 months of runway, to be able to cover that additional expense, assuming your revenue stays the same. If you are able to get to like 8K net profit or 10K net profit based on your existing infrastructure, you're able to build that runway. This also depends on how much money you already have saved.
Do you think 675 square feet is enough space to make that happen? Or do you recommend, because I don't know why I didn't think of this, like I'm already in 2 units, why did I just get one? Now, there's a larger storage unit coming up in my area, but that's still 45 days out. But I just thought that might be hard operationally, but if I have to do it, I have to do it. You think I should just get another unit? And then
I do. I think you need to take an incremental step here. You need a smaller step before you can get into the warehouse because of your cash flow situation. And
right now I'm not even cash flow positive.
Exactly. And you have people that are depending on you. You probably do need more space in order to get to something like 30 couches a month, 40 couches a month. This is where you have like a lot of opportunity, is just simply doing more volume. If you know that's like the first lever that you can pull on, like try to do it. And then along the way, you're going to figure out what the problems are. What's keeping me from doing more volume? Is it I don't have enough hours in the day? Is it I can't find enough couches in my area to have that many listed? You're not going to know until you try. Maybe you have an idea already. Do you know?
No, but that's actually really helpful because that was actually one of the concerns I had. What if I get this space and then I run into one of those issues? Now, one of the things is, okay, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, I'll see one or two deals a day and they get snatched up. If it's one of those fast weeks, now if it's a slow week, they don't. But what happens is on the slow weeks, I max my inventory out and then I don't pick up anymore because I reach capacity. It's not impossible to get more. It's the weeks that I choose to do it, because on those weeks where people are buying and they're paying attention to Facebook Marketplace, it makes it a lot harder to get them because I can't be an hour west of me and an hour east of me at the same time. And some people just don't accept deposits as far as honing it until I get there. But I think the main constraint as far as getting more inventory right now is it's hard to say, right? 30 days is not a long time. But if I was to get more inventory right now, the issue is that the current example, it's 3 p.m. I have one couch I'm waiting for the legs for, so that one's a dud until the legs get here. And then I have one couch to finish cleaning. It needs a lot of work. That's going to take some time. And if I go and pick up another couch, now I have another couch that's not listed. And what happens is, and it happened before, that slow time between the 12th and 17th that I didn't sell anything, I picked up a bunch of couches. I got backed up on work, and then I paid for some labor and some help to get them cleaned up and done. And then once I got them done, as I started selling, it was like I didn't want to do it again. I was just like, I don't want to overwhelm myself and get too backed up on work. So then I was kind of picking them up as they came, but not quickly enough. And I think the issue is that if I pick up too many couches, I don't have the time to clean them. So I get into a spot where I need to be cleaning a couch, but I also need to be picking up one.
It's a hard equation, right? Because let's say you just pick up couches as they become available and you just store them away, but you're unable to process them and get them listed. Time is money. Literally, right? Like, think about it. Let's say you can fit 10 sectionals in a storage unit and you pay $1,000 for that storage unit a month. Then over the course of a month, if a sectional sits in there, you're paying $100 in storage costs for that sectional. Time is money. And that's why turnover time is such an important metric, right? And like, so once again, we talked about this. It's not just like turnover time in the aggregate. It should really be divided into two. One is how quickly can you get it listed, and then how quickly after listing does it get sold. Now, I think the good news for you is that your average turnover time is low. It's good. Okay. When I look at the P&Ls of most flippers, they're averaging more in the 10 to 14 day range. I think that's average.
I've been working to drive that down just because if you notice in these months, and I've had times before where like it stayed in the $2, $3, or $4 range, especially if I have a gray one. I guess I need to stop fixing something that's not broken. So I'm glad you said that.
So your turnover time is good. What that means to me is when you get something, you sell it. Like, you're not just sitting on inventory for days and days and days hoping it sells. Like, when you get something, it moves. And, you know, maybe that's a function of pricing. And that might be an opportunity for you as well, because once again, you can sell more couches. You can also make more on each couch. So maybe you're underpricing on certain couches, and that's because people want deals. Good deals move quickly. The better price you can offer, more likely you can sell things quickly. But right now, that's an advantage for you. An issue would be you pick up a bunch of couches and you're unable to move them. But if you can pick up couches and sell them, if that means you don't have an issue on the selling side, you have an issue on the sourcing side. So I would focus on the sourcing. In the space that you have currently, I'm not sure if it's possible, but it probably is, to be able to have 10 couches listed at any given time. I think if you made this simple optimization, and maybe it's actually more difficult in practice than it sounds, to have 10 couches listed at any given time, I think you would immediately see a result in your business. I know right now you don't have them stacked up, but maybe that's what you should do. Like, you have one unit that people walk into. Okay, then lay out the couches in that unit. In another unit, maybe use that for storage, or maybe you get a third unit and your cost doesn't go up 1,500, but it goes up like 200, and you keep some couches in storage there. Could be a good solution for you. You know, one thing that I see flippers do all the time, they get a bunch of furniture dollies and then they just put the couch vertically on the furniture dolly, and they can move things around easily. And they can fit more couches in the space that they have. And right now, I wouldn't worry about being perfect and doing things the right way. I would think about being like really scrappy and figuring out how to get your numbers up.
All right. So that's yeah, I think I can be particular with things at time. That actually uncovered that it's affecting me. So by me trying to be perfect and then mitigate the fact that, and also I do need to mention that I've never lost a sale from someone being like, what is this? Actually, I have one time. Her partner still wanted the couch. He was like, are you serious? So I guess it's not as much of a concern as I made it out to be, as far as like fitting things in a tight space. Like I'm especially because my pricing is good, and then I'd like to lead into that as well. But I guess it wouldn't be as much of a concern as far as the couch is sitting there.
You're selling sectionals for $500 a pop. It's a good price. These people are not walking into Westell trying to buy top of the line furniture, expect you to hand them an espresso when they walk in. They're in your storage unit, they're looking for a deal. So if you're McDonald's, be a McDonald's. I don't mean that in a negative way, right? Just like know your market, know your customer, know what the value they're looking for in the relationship, and then just give that to them. The answer here in the numbers is clear. You just need to sell more couches. And in order to sell more couches, you need to figure out how to source more couches. It sounds like you could buy more couches. Like there are more couches available in your market to buy. You're not like totally stuck on your ability to find deals. And so it's a question of like, okay, how do I buy these couches? How do I get them processed and listed quickly? That's the problem in your business that you need to solve today. And then once you solve that problem, another problem will emerge. But how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
As far as my average gross profit, I've been trying to keep it at 400, but it's stayed pretty steady at like 350. Is that a good number?
350 gross profit on a couch is not bad. I would say 250 minimum gross profit on a couch. And then if you can get more towards 500, great. That's another lever that you have to pull on. I think that's going to come. So for example, if you upgrade to a warehouse, you have a nice little showroom, you have a brand, you have more of a reputation, you have repeat customers, you're picking up a little bit higher quality inventory. Your average gross profit per flip will start to increase over time. But that's not the area of the business that I look at immediately and think like, oh, like he's got to work on this. I think where you're at today, it's like you got a lot of time. It's volume. You got to start pushing more product. Your costs are low. Your sales time is fast. Your gross profit per flip is decent. But where you're struggling is volume. And part of that is just like being scrappy and getting more organized. It's not good for you to do like a week where it's totally dead and then a week where it's totally fast. Because what ends up happening is the dead time is dead time now.
Yeah. And 1 week, that's 25% of the month.
Exactly. Every day, every week is really important to you now. Because back in the day, it's okay. I'm in the car lot. I'm making money. Now, dead time is dead time. This is the first thing you need to do, right? Is like just make sure you're doing something all the time. You're just keeping busy. And then once you're busy all the time, now you can think about how do I become more efficient with my time? But you don't solve both problems at once. Like first, make sure you're busy. And then figure out, now that I'm busy, how do I get more leverage for the hours that I'm putting in?
Gotcha. More, then better. Same thing with the couches, like more volume and then more gross profit.
Exactly. Now, don't take this to the extreme and just like be doing stuff for no reason and just
Oh, yeah.
like run around like you're
No,
chicken
but
with your
like
head cut off.
cleaning, picking up meetings with customers for couches.
Exactly. So take a deal. Like, so for example, if you have a choice between not picking up a couch or picking up a couch that is not as great of a deal as you'd like, go pick up that couch. Assuming there's no significant opportunity cost, it's better to stay busy in these days.
That's actually really good because right now I think I can fit one more in the space that I'm at. And sometimes I look at deals and I'll be like, it's a couch I would normally pay 200 for, but it's 300, but I know I can sell it for 700 within 2 weeks. Sometimes I won't get it because I'm like, well, another deal will pop up and I feel like I have one more slot left. I would hate to fill this slot with a caps that I feel like the margins aren't as good. Seems like I'm worrying about my margins too much too, because that doesn't seem to be the issue here.
I mean, the average gross profit per flip, it's a nice number, but what really matters at the end of the day is the net profit each month. Immediate action items here. How can you do more with the space that you have currently? Probably some optimization there. There is also probably an incremental investment that you can make in finding more space that like you could probably find another storage unit, I don't know, 10 by 30, 20 by 20, or 15 by 20, something like that. It only costs you $200 a month. And just having more space available could maybe have a great impact on your ability to have multiple listings up at the same time without greatly increasing your expenses. This is what you need to figure out, right? It's like, how do you make more money without also increasing your overhead a ton? The lever that you have in the business today that pull on a little bit harder is just your time and energy. And then let's get to that point. And then let's have a call in 2, 3 months. Now, instead of 4K net profit, you're at 8K net profit. The conversation's a little bit different, right? You're going to have uncovered some different challenges in your business. And it's probably going to be like, man, I was like all the way on this side of town, and then a deal came up, and then I had to run to this side of town, and then, I'm just running around all over town, and I feel like chaotic, and I don't know, like I'm getting lost. All right, that's a different problem. Let's solve that problem when you get to it.
Do you think I should get a trailer?
Maybe. I mean, right now you don't need one. But if you get to a point where you're like, oh shit, like I could have picked this up, but I missed out on this pickup because I didn't have a trailer.
That's happened once or twice.
If it's not happening all the time, you don't need a trailer. One of the really important characteristics of being a good entrepreneur is just prioritizing. Like figuring out, for example, I have a to-do list. There are, at any given time, probably 25 items on my to-do list. And this is just the way I do things. My to-do list, it never gets done. And I know different people that operate differently. Everything they have on their to-do list, they get done. I know going into each day, what are the most important items that I need to get done? And I'm good about that. So what needs to get done gets done. But then I have all these ideas about other things that I could be doing in order to improve the business. And there are a million of these ideas. And so what ends up happening is when I have an idea, I put it on the list. And then if I have time for something that is not essential, I'll get around to it. And then the stuff that is not important just never gets done. It just falls to the bottom of the list. So right now you have like probably a lot of different ideas. Should I get a trailer? Should I buy a warehouse? Should I do this? Should I do that? Let's simplify this and focus on what are the most important things to do today. Let's get that done. And then as you're doing that, the other ideas you have and the other potential priorities will work themselves out, right? And so just understanding what you need to do when will serve you as an entrepreneur. Don't solve problems before they exist. Let them become a problem and then work on a solution. Don't put the cart before the horse.
I think what's awesome is about coaching like this is like, they're not new concepts. At the end of the day, you can either get more customers and make them worth more, or simplify that, get more couches, or sell them for more, make them worth more. But sometimes it takes someone else going like, it's clear, like, why aren't you doing this?
You know what's so funny is like, I literally just got off a call with my advisor. I have an advisor. We should all have advisors. And there's this business partnership that we're currently evaluating. And I was like, do you think I'm being naive about this? He's like, you're being naive. I had this feeling like, man, am I looking at this the wrong way? And he just put it really clear to me. You're being naive. Like sometimes we need to hear that. Nothing I've told you today is new to you or was rocket science in some shape or form. It's all very simple stuff, but you haven't been there before. And so if I can give you more clarity on what's important and what to take action on, and then you go and do that, then that'll help set you on the right path. And I'm excited to talk with you in another couple months to kind of see what direction you've headed with your business. I think you're headed into some good times. We're coming out of the summer. In the next couple months, sales should start to spike up again.
Yeah, which is surprising to me because I thought it was great already. Well, because I know you're saying like my turnaround time is great and like I already had the feeling, but I still wanted to get it better for some reason anyways. But like, even though my numbers haven't been the best, it's because like I haven't had inventory. But as far as like on the sales side, 2 weeks ago when the no nonsense couch flipping, everyone's like, views are down, it's slow. And then I'm pretty sure that was that same week that it was just like crushing it for me. So it's actually surprising to hear that it's supposed to get. So if I can get my inventory worked out, that's actually really exciting.
Absolutely. So take this time, lay your foundation. Once summer's out, moms are back in the house, kids are in school, people start paying a little bit more attention to their house, trying to get things organized, etc. You should be prepared for that season. So thanks. Historically, when we've looked at these numbers, sales always start to spike up again in August. So yeah, I think you're in for some good times.
I was boosting for turnaround time. Should I keep that up? I mean, because right now, now that I'm seeing what the actual constraint of my business is, it seems kind of like a waste. Like I've been doing it, I've been getting some messages, but I mean, it's not making the difference of whether it gets sold or not. It's making the difference of whether it gets sold on Friday or Sunday. So I'm not sure if I should continue doing it. Right now, this gray couch that I'm about to clean after we get off this call, I have a lady that it either gets done today or tomorrow or she buys somewhere else. And the reason why is because I boosted this ad and then someone offered me some less money delivered. And then I took too low of an offer. And now I have a bunch of people that are waiting for me to get another gray couch. So I think my demand is outpacing the supply that I have.
Don't solve problems you don't have. You boost because you have a sales problem. You don't have a sales problem. And this is good that like you have like a waiting list almost, right? Like you have people that like you know what their needs are and you're working to serve their needs, and then that helps you build a reputation. You should probably start a Facebook group if you haven't started a Facebook group already.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer at this
It's
point.
small, 75 members, but
Keep grinding, getting them in. Like once you get 500 people in that group and you're engaging with it, and your content is good, by the way. This is one of your strengths, and you should keep leaning into this.
thank
Like
you.
I was seeing your content even when you were selling cars. That's one of your strengths. So create that group, keep posting content. Like you don't have a sales problem. I think you're better off creating more content than putting money into boosts.
Kind of like because I know we're closing up here. I'm sure you have a meeting after this and I have one as well. But as far as like the content goes, I'd be really excited to build my personal brand as far as me building the business, so I can have an audience of those people, and then growing the brand as far as the couches and people looking for couches. I think a lot of the fun part about it is the rest of the video could just be a bunch of like horse crap, but like just working on hooks, getting someone's like emotions riled up, or earning each second. It's worked really well for me. Like when I was selling cars, just saying like a controversial point, just tens of thousands. It's that easy. So it was pretty cool. So hopefully I could translate that over. I just wonder about the local area, though, was my concern, because a lot of it's views from people across state that can't do anything with me.
Yeah, but views are views. And once again, don't solve problems you don't have. Like if you're getting thousands of views, it's a better place to be than not getting any views. So if you start creating content, you're getting lots of views, and then you're like, well, shit, none of these people are in my local area. Solve that problem later. But it's like, even if, who cares? Like if someone's in Alaska and they watch your video, if it's going viral, it's still more likely that someone in your area that needs a couch is watching it, right? That's just how virality works. So I don't think that's a real concern. I see this as one of your main strengths, building a business for yourself, is that you understand marketing, you understand branding, you understand sales. What you need to do is get more organized and like work a little bit harder.
Gotcha.
Look, I don't even know.
Operations.
You got to get tighter on your operations.
Yeah. No, I heard you backtrack a little bit there to make sure I wouldn't get offended, but not at all. I agree.
Cool. Keon, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for hopping on the pod today. I think it takes bravery to come on and, be vulnerable, share with the world like how you're doing with your business and put that all out there. People get value in hearing from others that are struggling with the same problems that they might be having themselves. And I guarantee you there's someone that's going to listen to this podcast and say like, shit, like what he's talking about, like I have that exact same problem, and hopefully they can take that and apply these lessons to their business as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for this software. Like I feel like it's priced so well, but like the value that can be received from this software that you've developed, and I'm not sure what your team looks like for that, but it's so helpful. Like all I have to do is find one couch deal to get ROI on this software, and it's awesome because I get to see all of the couches like all at once, and I can pick and choose the best one, and then I can also, when it gets to that point, the software will allow me to monopolize my area. So someone can say like, oh, I can get it cheaper. It's like, well, no, you can't, because I see every couch within a 40-mile radius within a certain price point. It's just, I don't know. It's been really helpful to me. So the cross listing has been helping as well.
Amazing. Super happy you're getting value out of the tools. And we have more to come. We have a lot of exciting ideas and features that we're currently working on. I'm keeping some of these close to my chest for now, but you'll hear more about this in the months to come. We have a lot of ideas. The basic idea here is we want to give people a blueprint. The thing I like about couch flippers, young, hungry guys, they want to work hard, they want to make money, they want to provide for their families. They're not sitting at home buying Bitcoin and create a drop shipping store. There's real work ethic involved. And Ivy Flip is here to create opportunities for people. We want to put everyone on. And so wherever you're starting, whether it's in your garage with a trailer attached to your Toyota Corolla, or you're a little bit more scaled up, or you have like a 7,000 square foot warehouse, like we want to give you a path, the resources, the technology that you need to scale up, reclaim time in your day, be more efficient, do better in your business. But I think what's happening here is that an industry is forming. Like this kind of business hasn't really existed before. And now we're understanding like what these businesses should look like and what their potential is. And I want everyone to recognize their potential. And if we can be a part of that journey and make money doing it, then that's exactly what I want to do.
you're definitely leading the way. I see a lot of people getting mad at about it because it's encouraging competition. But the way I see it is, if someone new comes into your marketplace and is doing better than you, then that means that you haven't learned anything throughout the time that you've been doing it. Like, you should have some type of competitive advantage, considering if you were there first, someone else comes into your space, you should have some type of knowledge or operations or something in place that prevents that.
I understand where, I mean, some of these guys, especially like these guys that are a little bit more old school, maybe they've been doing it for 5 years. And back then it was just a couple people. But the word is out. Like, and it's not my fault. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not going to name drop, but you're definitely not the first guy to say anything.
it's not like I created couch flipping, right? And like the content that we create is mostly very informational. So you're already motivated and interested in couch flipping. We're just like showing you how to do it. That's really the focus of the content that we create. But what's funny is like, okay, the industry is changing regardless, whether or not IV flip exists. Maybe it moves a little bit slower or faster with or without. Maybe it moves a little bit slower without us, but people want to make money, and where there's an opportunity to make money, like they're going to go there. But it's funny because nowadays you don't hear any conversation about competition. And that's because that wasn't really the problem that was affecting these people. And now we hear a lot more about like, I'm getting banned on Facebook. My listings aren't getting views. And the reason we don't hear about competition anymore is because now we have real problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now people have real problems and like not so worried about the competition anymore. Turns out there is enough inventory on Facebook Marketplace such that you can build a business. And if not on Facebook Marketplace, there are other sources of inventory as well. So you don't have to rely on Facebook Marketplace. Get it from an apartment complex, run some ads, build relationships, buy beef stock trailers. So it's simply like, if you want to build a business in couch flipping, there are ways to do it. And it doesn't all have to rely on Facebook Marketplace. So the people that are complaining were complaining about a very specific niche of couch flipping business that just involves sourcing on Facebook and selling on Facebook. But the opportunity at large is much bigger than that. And that's what we're trying to illuminate, right? Is like, you don't have to just do this thing on Facebook, buy on Facebook, sell on Facebook. There is a whole world out there of opportunity that like you can aspire towards. And if you want to get there, here's how you do it. And here's some help along the way. Keon, thank you so much for joining me on the pod today. Look forward to having you in a future episode.
Thank you. I got some really good notes. I'm pretty sure after this talk, my business is going to grow pretty much. So this is better than any high ticket consulting that I could have paid for.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Look forward to speaking with you soon.